Hello and welcome. This is Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World, and I'm your host, Jim Phillips. It is through the application of ancient wisdom in our modern world that we gain a greater understanding and experience of the truth of who we are. Never has there been a time in the history of humanity when there's a greater need to understand this truth. And it is this truth that will set us free. Before I begin today's episode, I want to invite you to subscribe to the Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World podcast at sacredstoriesmedia.com, where you can also listen to inspirational messages by my Sacred Stories colleagues. Additionally, if you'd like more information on my work and my message and free downloads, please visit my personal website at www.livinginfullexpression.com. And lastly, I'm excited to announce that my book, The Key to Life, is now fully available at sacredstoriespublishing.com, amazon.com, barnesandnoble.com, and booksellers around the world. And now for today's episode. And I want to begin with a quote. We cannot be the full expression of that which we are not. We cannot be the full expression of that which we are not. And really what this means is that we cannot experience and express something that we have not embodied and fully accept as true. I'm continuously looking at life and how it folds, in particular how my life unfolds. Because honestly, it's just my life over which I have any authority, just as it is your life over which you have authority. We can influence other people's lives through how we act and what we say. However, the final decision as to what they do or as a result of their interpretation of what we do or say, which is really just what it is, and it's completely up to them. What I've discovered in my work is that most people really just want to know that they're relevant. They want to know that somehow, some way, they have or will make a difference in the world. And that some way or somehow will benefit others. All too often, though, we believe that being relevant or making a difference means we have to do something big or monumental that's played out in the public spotlight. Maybe we believe that to make a difference we have to invent something that changes how we live, or that we have to find a cure for a life-threatening disease. Or maybe we have to become a peacemaker and are somehow instrumental in bringing about world peace. Well, these things are noble and certainly worthwhile accomplishments. However, the clear majority of us won't do these things, at least not on the grand stage of life. And yet who we are and how we live our lives can and will dramatically impact the lives of others. World peace starts and ends with each of us. How we view the world impacts the world. How we view one another impacts the world. And more importantly, how we view ourselves and live our life impacts the world. We're creators in every sense of the word and therefore constantly creating. We might not create new technology or equipment or a new theory on life that impacts humanity, but we're always creating experiences that create the opportunity to experience ourselves in different ways, and therefore serves an example to others of who they are and what is possible for them. I believe the purpose of life is for our opportunity for living in full expression of our truth. I also believe that to do so, we are here to better understand and embody 4 specific principles, or what I call pillars of life, that serve as the underpinnings of life. And life is living in full expression. When we make choices and we live life within the context of these 4 pillars, we are creating, experiencing, and expressing more and more of the truth of who we are. Here are the 4 pillars: unconditional love, non-judgment, forgiveness, and gratitude. And I don't give them to you in any particular order. No one is more important than the other because they're all integral to one another. However, I do want to say that love is the linchpin of life. And with that, I'm going to begin with unconditional love. And I'm sure that you've heard that the ultimate expression and experience of love is unconditional love. In fact, we're told that God's love towards us and all of her creations is unconditional. Now, I'm going to use the word unconditional here because it's the one we are most familiar with when it comes to describing the highest expression of love. However, I will also say that there is no such thing as unconditional love. I believe that any love upon which conditions are placed is not love at all. You see, love is as love is without condition. Either you love or you don't. Either you understand that you are connected to all things through love or you don't. Now, I do understand that as humans, we express and experience varying degrees of love for different groups of people or experiences we might have. However, what I'm speaking of here is divine love, love without limitation or condition. Love, as one of the 4 pillars of life, means that we love life fully, completely, and wholly as it is and as it unfolds. We love everything contained within our life experiences, even those things we might label as difficult or challenging. And when we live life unconditionally and therefore love everything in and about life, we accept and embrace all that it presents. We know that what is being presented offers an opportunity to experience and express ourselves in ways we might not be able to if it were not for this specific event or experience. Loving unconditionally means accepting, honoring, and respecting every person's life and life choices. Who are any of us to know why a person or a soul chose a specific life's journey, any more than they can know ours? Loving unconditionally is perhaps hardest experienced and expressed when it is towards oneself. We've been taught that to love oneself is selfish, self-serving, and self-centered. And paradoxically, this is true, and it is necessary. We are to be self-serving, and that we love, honor, accept, and respect ourselves as we are, fully, completely, and wholly. We are to be selfish and self-centered, and take care of ourselves, because in truth, that is what we're here to do. Each of us is the steward of our own soul, and that's a responsibility not to be taken lightly. Now, this doesn't mean that we do this to the detriment of others. Of course, we'll benefit others whenever and whenever we can. However, we don't do it because we have been told to, or we don't do it because we'll receive some grand reward at the end of this trip. We do it because it is simply who we are. When we live from and as love, we see beauty in every aspect of life, even those things we might not want to experience. We know everything in this life is an aspect of the perfect design for the life experiences we have chosen to have. Love is the energetic, benevolent, creative force of life, and therefore, love is the linchpin of life. The second pillar is non-judgment. Of the four pillars that we're here to experience and express during our lifetimes, I find non-judgment to be the most difficult and yet the most opportunistic. We judge things, ourselves, other people, against one another, against someone else or something else. In doing so, we label things or them as better or worse, good or evil, ugly or beautiful, worthy or unworthy, right or wrong. Why is it so difficult to let go of judgment and just accept and embrace life as it is, as it unfolds in its perfection? Well, what is judgment? Quite simply, it's just a person's opinion based on their perspective. And their perspective is formed from information and beliefs that they hold as true, regardless of the truth of the information or belief. Now, something else to consider when it comes to judgment is that we don't know what the other person has gone through or is currently going through to do or become who they are. We do see this outward manifestation of who they are in the moment, and we judge them against what we believe that manifestation or behavior would indicate. But again, we do not and cannot know the journey that another soul has chosen, any more than they can know ours. Quite frankly, it's not ours to know or understand. It is ours to honor and respect. And it's just the same consideration we would ask as we explore, express, and experience ourselves in the way we have chosen to on this specific soul journey. The real issue of judgment, though, is self-judgment. To judge someone or someone else says who we are and where we are in our experience and expression of ourselves. It really has nothing to do with the person or thing being judged. Judgment at its core reflects one's beliefs about and relationship with their self. Here's what I would suggest. Take notice of how you judge yourself and how often you judge yourself. Not the outward expression of self-judgment, although this certainly happens, but more so the internal judgment of self through the consistent self-talk or inner dialogue you continue to have with yourself. What do you continuously say to and about yourself through thoughts and words that would reinforce specific behaviors and belief you hold about yourself that are limiting and disempowering? Do you speak or think of yourself in self-deprecating ways? Are you holding yourself back from the full expression and experience of the self you desire because of your judgment of who you think you are or need to be? On the other hand, how often do you speak highly of yourself? How often are your thoughts kind, loving, empowering, and inspirational towards yourself? How often, if ever, do you say to yourself from the heart, I love you, I appreciate you, I honor and respect you? The point here is that we must first be non-judgmental towards ourselves if we are to be non-judgmental towards all others. In truth, we cannot be non-judgmental until we are non-judgmental towards ourselves. When we are accepting, appreciative, respectful, and loving towards ourselves, we are then able to be accepting, appreciative, and loving towards all others. When we acknowledge, accept, and honor the path we have chosen for the fullest expression and experience of ourself, we can then fully honor the path that each other soul has chosen for their desired expression and experience of their self. Whenever I find myself being judgmental, whether it's about myself or another, I just ask myself a very simple, yet what I believe very revealing question. What is it in me that this is so? What is it I believe about myself in this moment that is causing me to form this opinion or judgment? What is it that I can look at about myself that is being shown to me through my judgment? From where do these beliefs originate? And perhaps more importantly, are they true? Any beliefs, judgments that we hold about ourselves that are disempowering or that would not allow or support the full expression and experience of ourselves are not the truth of who we are. They're not the truth of who we desire to be or who we are in the process of being. Being judgmental doesn't make us or anyone else right or wrong. Just that thought in and of itself is judgmental. It is simply who and where we believe ourselves to be in that moment of our current life experience and expression of self. And it's through this recognition of our judgment that we can change our beliefs and therefore our experience and our expression of ourselves. Keep in mind that being non-judgmental doesn't mean that we accept or condone what someone else is doing or has done. It doesn't mean that we turn that so-called blind eye to things that are or could be harmful to others. On the contrary, we do what we can to prevent or alter the event or circumstances, but without judgment of the person or people involved. Yeah, this can be difficult at times. However, it is when we rise above our judgmental tendencies that we are in greater alignment with our divine nature. And the more aligned we are with our divine nature, the greater our experience and expression of ourself. Imagine this for a moment. How different would the world be if we didn't judge ourselves and therefore one another? What if each one of us allowed each other to be who we are and desire to be? There'd be no war, no prejudice, no discrimination. There'd be no hatred, no religious intolerance, no poverty, no hunger. We would just experience peace and joy and happiness and collaboration. Out of non-judgment comes unconditional love. With unconditional love, as I mentioned earlier, we are accepting of all others and all things as they exist in their perfection. Of course, there'd be differences in how we think and live, and certainly some differences in what each believes. However, there would be respect for one another and an honoring of the life path that each has chosen for their personal expression and experience of self. There would be the full responsibility for one's life experiences, while accepting and allowing others to be responsible for theirs. Practicing non-judgment can be difficult. What I suggest is that to lessen or eliminate the degree to which you judge, consider these two things. First, when you find yourself being judgmental of another, simply send them love, respect, and blessings for their chosen journey. Express gratitude for their expression that has brought to your attention your judgment, and be grateful and appreciative towards yourself for the awareness of your judgment and your willingness to make a change. Secondly, bring awareness to bear on your judgments. Question your judgments and the belief behind them. Ask, what is it in me that this is so? As you acknowledge your judgment and reveal the underlying belief, you will alter your relationship with yourself. And as you alter your relationship with yourself, your judgmental tendencies will dissipate. And as they dissipate, you gain a greater acceptance, appreciation, respect, and love for yourself and all others. And as you gain this greater acceptance, appreciation, respect, and love for all others, you're living from the heart, within which resides unconditional love. The next of the four pillars is gratitude. And gratitude is attentive appreciation towards all that we are, all that we have, all that we experience, and the potential for all that can be. It's an expression and experience of divine love for all that we are, all that we have, all that we experience, and the potential for all that can be. The law of gratitude is very much like the law of gravity. We can't see gravity, but we know it exists. We know to a certain degree what gravity is and that it works whether we are consciously aware of it or not. We don't have to think about gravity to know that it keeps planets in alignment, it keeps us on the face of the earth, and that it causes the ebb and flow of the tides. And thinking about gravity doesn't make it any more so. Gravity just is. Gratitude, on the other hand, has one very important distinction, and that is that the more we are aware of and conscious of gratitude, the more we express it, the more we are given for which to be grateful. The more we demonstrate that we appreciate all that we have and all that is available to us, the more the universe responds by giving us more. So really, how does this law of gratitude work? When we demonstrate gratitude, I'm talking about heartfelt gratitude. It's done through our thoughts and our words and our deeds. When we do this, we emit an energetic frequency of love, joy, peace, and thankfulness. As this energetic frequency is emitted, it attracts like energetic frequencies that present similar experiences for the feeling and expression of gratitude. You have to understand that the universe wants us to experience love, joy, happiness, and well-being. Therefore, it will co-create with us those experiences that allow for these feelings to be experienced and expressed. All that we desire lies in wait as a potential for it to be, and we bring it into our lived experience with our attentive appreciation that it is ours, should we choose to receive it. Being in a state of gratitude, we're open and receptive to what the universe wants us to experience. In fact, what the universe has promised is our birthright. In gratitude, we live life with an understanding and acceptance that there's an abundance of everything we desire, readily available to all at all times, not just a select few. Living with this abundance mentality dissolves all thoughts of lack or limit to which we might have become attached. In being released from these limiting thoughts and beliefs, we make room for that which we truly desire. It's by expressing gratitude that we are empowered. We no longer question our worthiness to receive the goodness of life. In gratitude, we receive and experience all that we desire. Forgiveness is the next of the 4 pillars of life that I want to discuss. And of these 4 pillars, forgiveness is the most liberating. I got to be honest, though, it's also the one that I have the most difficulty writing and speaking about. And this isn't because I don't know how to forgive or that I haven't forgiven. I've long since been able to detach the person from the event and accept that they're not what they do or have done. All of this really stems more from my difficulty in forgiving myself and letting go of any doubts and fears or judgments I have regarding myself. What is this act of forgiveness? Forgiveness is releasing oneself from any thoughts and beliefs and judgments that we hold against oneself or another. It's also one of the greatest expressions of self-love we can have. When we forgive, we tear down the walls of a self-imposed prison that's been built upon a foundation of anger, resentment, judgment, hatred, and fear. Forgiveness is one of the greatest expressions of compassion we can extend to ourselves and others. We extend compassion for our humanness and the respective life's path each has chosen to experience and express what the soul desires. Forgiveness doesn't suggest that we have to become friends with or even like those whom we feel have harmed us. We don't know what pain caused them to act in the way that they did, any more than they can know ours. Forgiveness holds within it non-judgment and love and gratitude for all that life has to offer. Forgiveness allows us to more fully experience and express our true nature. Forgiveness allows us to be detached from any thoughts and beliefs that would hold us hostage and prevent our grandest experience and expression of self. Forgiveness, quite simply, offers the opportunity to liberate and be liberated. Forgiveness is not about condoning or absolving someone of something they did. It's not turning a blind eye and acting as if the act never took place. What was done was done. Forgiveness will not change that. In forgiveness, the offender is not being released from the act committed. They might feel better thinking that because they've been forgiven, all is well. Well, forgiveness doesn't alter the fact that the offender must live with what they have done in addition to coping with the consequences of their act. True forgiveness comes from taking responsibility and forgiving oneself for the actions that were taken. And only in self-forgiveness is one truly free. Now, the paradox in forgiveness is that the very act that causes us to harbor this anger or resentment, hatred, or contempt for another is the catalyst for our grander expression and experience of ourself. This act of forgiveness provides the opportunity to rise above that which would hold us back. Another seeming paradox of the act of forgiveness is that although we're seeking to be released from the feelings we hold, we are to fully experience them. We are to be angry, resentful, and perhaps feel contempt for the other person. We are here to experience and express the full range of human emotions as an experience and expression of self. That's part of being here on the earth plane. That is part of being human. However, we're to release the energy behind these emotions. They don't become blocks within us that prevent life from continuing to flow through us. The key here is that we don't become attached to these thoughts, these feelings and emotions, and we don't let them define our experience of ourselves from that moment forward. What I've been talking about so far with forgiveness has been really more about extending forgiveness towards another person so that we can be released from the disempowering thoughts and beliefs attached to the event and or the person or people involved. It's always easy to believe that forgiveness is about the other person, when in truth forgiveness is always about us. It is our thoughts and beliefs that keep anger and hatred and frustration, resentment, and contempt alive in our hearts, not the other person. As we forgive and release ourselves from these feelings and emotions, we live more in the moment and are more fully engaged and available to what life is offering. Forgiveness is the conscious choice to be free. In forgiveness lies the truth. In truth, we are set free. When forgiveness is expressed, the one for whom forgiveness is given takes responsibility for their act, while the one who is forgiving takes responsibility for their own peace and happiness. In truth, there is nothing to forgive. We're all here on this planet, at this specific place and time. We're all doing the best we can with what we know and what we hold as the truth. And I believe that at some point in our respective evolution, through the many lifetimes that we live, we will all experience what we see in another. To me, this is all best summed up in a quote that we've all heard: "Forgive them, for they know not what they do." I invite you to consider these 4 pillars of life and how exploring them might change your perspective on and your experience of life and, more importantly, your experience of yourself. I want to thank you again for your time today. I know you have many opportunities towards which you can invest your precious time, and yet, again, you've chosen to spend this time with me. And I want you to know how greatly I appreciate you making that choice. If you have any questions or comments on today's podcast, or if you have a suggestion for a future podcast, please email me at jim@prosperitybydesign.com. I look forward to continuing our conversation as we bring more ancient wisdom into our modern world that will change not only our personal lives, but the world as we know it into a more peaceful, more loving, more kind, and joy-filled experience for all. Until next time, I'm Jim Phillips, and you've been listening to Ancient Wisdom for a Modern World.